Alright guys, and we're on our way to go get the workout done now. It's push day. It's going to be hypertrophy based, so we'll see you in there. Alright guys, so we're going to start off with some bench. I'm just going to warm up real quick and then we're going to get into 3 sets of 8.
So you guys are going to see some numbers and the exact lift and number of sets I'm doing on screen. That's just something to give you guys an idea of what I normally do. But I'm going to be talking throughout this entire video about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So on push day, I always start out with a bench press. Today specifically was a hypertrophy based day. So in order to gain my muscle size, I always tend to opt for 8 reps, 6 reps, somewhere higher than 5, 3, 1, because those are usually reserved for power sets, whereas these higher rep ranges, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that range is typically based off of hypertrophy. So right now I'm making sure that I keep all of my effort as high as I can. The RPE for this is supposed to be about an 8. For those of you who don't know what RPE is, it essentially stands for rate of perceived exertion. Your rate of perceived exertion, or RPE, is basically how hard am I working. If I had a gun up to my head, could I get another rep? If your RPE is a 10 on the scale, then you could not have. If it's a 9, then you could have gotten 1 more rep. An 8, then you could have gotten 2 more reps, and so on. If you have too low of an RPE, like 5, 4, something like that, then you're really crossing over into the threshold where you're not getting enough intensity. And if you have too much of a high RPE, then you will burn out too quickly in your sets. You could see actually that I burned out a little too quickly in mine. So sometimes I burn out a little earlier than I intend. This was one of those times. Normally I do 3 sets of 8 on bench, but this time I knew I couldn't. So I stopped short in my second set at 6 reps, and that third set consisted of a specialized movement that I did to try and fix a weak spot that I have, sticking point on the chest. Next, I went ahead and gone over to the shoulder press to do 3 sets of 8 here, and I superset shoulder press with a rocking tricep kickback. This rocking tricep kickback is really good because it not only gets the full benefit of a normal tricep pushdown, the additional benefit though that it gives is the fact that you have that extra stretch on the long head. So you have 3 different heads of the muscle in the triceps. That's why it's called a tricep. And one of the heads is known as the long head. It's the head that is the largest and causes the most size, the most visual bulk. That head is best hit by doing motions that not only fully extend the elbow, but also start to pull your arm back behind your body. In order to do that best, especially with a straight bar that I'm using, I tend to do that rocking tricep pushdown, because when I'm rocking like that, it allows me to just get that extra push through on my triceps, pulling it back with my triceps and getting the extra hypertrophic benefits of the full range of motion. I did 3 sets of 8 with this, just as I did 3 sets of 8 with shoulder press. Both of these I went to an RPE of about 8. Triceps tended to be a little bit lower on the RPE, maybe like a 7.5. Wouldn't have been sure if I could have gotten that third extra rep, but I do dislike going and not going at a high enough intensity. So I try and keep that at the forefront of my mind, keeping my form perfect, but also making sure that I keep good effort. Because without that good effort, even with good form, I'm not going to end up making the muscular gains that I'm looking for. So, this last set here of the rocking tricep pushdowns is just being finished up. Takes a little bit of effort. A couple of things that I'm doing that are key. I'm actively disengaging my wrists. I'm letting them stay parallel to the ground. And I'm making sure that I don't let my shoulders go in. Those are a couple of key things that you want to do when you're actually doing that exercise. Next up, I actually have a weird superset that's designed as a burnout sort of for the chest. So there are multiple pathways to building muscle. One of the strongest pathways that people underutilize is the accumulation of metabolites. Metabolites are essentially little cells in your body that will accumulate to muscle tissue that has a large amount of blood flow to it from a continuous amount of work. When you see people doing things like curling light weights for a ton of reps or benching a ton of reps, anything like that, the benefit that that can give is through accumulation of metabolites. With this exercise, or set of exercises I should say, it's essentially the same idea where we're really looking to push our muscle as hard as it will go, as long as we can. But we're also looking to, through the first portion of this, the one arm bench press, looking to have that unilateral stability built throughout the upper body and also unilateral power. And then through this portion that you see right now, the dumbbell pullover, which can be performed for the chest or the lats. In this case, I'm performing it for the chest. When it's performed for the chest, its primary function is to assist in lower chest activation and accumulate metabolites there in the case of how I'm using it. So essentially, that is the idea behind this. It may look a little weird, but honestly, I don't think anyone in there is judging anyone because, let's be real, everyone's focusing on their own lifts, on what they can do to be better. No one really cares about anyone else in the gym. And if people do, then it doesn't matter. It shouldn't, at least, because those people should not affect our lives, should not affect what we're doing to make ourselves better. Here's the rest of that superset, and I will be right back. Alright guys, now we're at the shoulder exercises. And for this, I am doing another superset in the same style that I did the last long clip. This set is of a modified version of the front delt raise and a normal version of the W raise. When we do front delt raises, typically what happens is we tend to allow our upper body to move with the front delts and cheat the weight up. In order to counter that, what I typically do is I go all the way up with my raising the weight, but I stop at about a 15 to 20 degree angle relative to perpendicular to the ground. And the reason that I do this is because that way I'm forcing my body not to be able to cheat the weight up, And at the same time, I am keeping my muscle contracted the entire time and forcing it to not allow anything else to start to assist it. That also lends itself to higher intensity and makes the exercise much more difficult. So you'll see near the end, I actually end up cheating, albeit not on purpose, just because of the intensity of the exercise. The W race is meant to primarily activate the rear delts, portion of the delts and the overall upper body development that most people don't necessarily think as much about. People always love the pushing muscles, the shoulders, what you would consider front and side delts, chest, triceps. They love biceps, they love lats, but people don't give enough attention to these more stabilizing muscles. Rear delts are a very strong component of stabilization throughout the shoulder, and as such, I am focusing on their function. One of their primary functions is to be able to externally rotate your arm. So by external rotation, essentially what you would be doing is having your elbow stationary, having your hands out in front of you and down, and your elbow stays as stationary as possible while your hands go out and back behind your body. That is external rotation, and training that external rotation will help for stability and overall muscular growth over the long term. That is basically why I do all of what I do. Hopefully you enjoyed this portion of the video, and I will see you in just a minute.